So, welcome to Cardboard Conversations, and with us today we have Simon Swan from Sorcery Contested Realm. And we're going to go over a little bit about the beta release, something about the community, and something about the future sets of Sorcery, and also maybe some of the visions for the company. So, thank you for joining us, Simon. And maybe you'd like to introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners, and also tell us a little about what it is you do within the Sorcery team.
Very good. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I watch all of your content. I watch all of our creators' content, and I really feel that you've done a tremendous amount to sort of surface a lot of information for our community. So, obviously, I'm Simon. My role at Eric's Curios is director of operations, but we're a small company. There's 9 of us who work very hard on the game. And as a small company, you face many different challenges. And most of those challenges are like problems or unanticipated type of issues that you have. So my role is to take a role in trying to solve those issues. And this goes from everything from product to distribution to partnerships and so on. So it's a very multifaceted role. It's a role which is kind of sometimes fighting fire, sometimes it's strategic. But we have that's what it takes. It's with a small business. You really want to be hands-on as much as possible, just to see how you navigate these few early steps. And our aim is to do things which are fundamentally help build the business, help build our brand, and obviously help build our community. So those are the 3 things that I'm focused on. I'm very lucky to work with a team of very, very talented individuals who are probably some of the absolute luminaries in their field. In terms of our design team, it's incredible the work that they do, and I try to keep a little bit out of that side of things. But when it comes to maybe some product decisions and some of the choices that Eric makes, I kind of help him a little bit with those. No, I'm very lucky to work with such a comprehensive team of people who, quite honestly, make my job very easy.
Cool, very cool. So we're gonna just get us like started off nice and easy here.
Come on, let's get started with the really hard questions. I know Curios first. What do you want to talk about?
We're gonna
Roll with the punches.
lull you into a safe of security before we hit you up with some curio questions.
Okay, got it.
So what has been the biggest surprise working with sorcery? What's been one of the biggest surprises?
The success. I
Yeah.
think. It's really hard because myself and many other people, when the project first was surfaced and socialized, I learned about it then, and I was directly in contact with Eric. And I don't have credentials for like trading card games or anything like that. I enjoy them. I enjoy many types of games. I've run a few communities in the past, but certainly I felt like I didn't. Well, I kind of have built the skill set required to do this particular role, and I've had some successes. Sometimes it's challenging, but I think that seeing what I first saw in the game, the excitement, the feeling of authenticity of the things that shaped our formative years, those things became so kind of like immediate. When I looked at the cards, I'm like, I can't not be part of this. I'm going to have to do something. And a lot of the communication I get from community members, and Chase gets from community members as well, is I need to be part. I want to join this. I need for this to be successful. And so that really was my initial role. I think another surprise is, we are fairly popular, I think it's fair to say. But sometimes people just out of the blue mention it, and it's like, oh wow, okay, that walking in a store and seeing it on the store shelves, that's a big shocker, because even though I've worked on it for 2 years, actually seeing it realized is a little bit of a sort of a surprise, even though it's inevitable what's going to happen. It's been so much work that to actually see it kind of takes your breath away a little bit when it first happens. But I'm surprised by how our team continue to innovate on the game design. And I must say, I'm surprised that, and this is a good thing, good surprise, because the game is excellent. It really is. It's so much fun, and people really enjoy it. And it's very easy for people to say, "Oh, it's the art's great," and it's like, well, I think we've done enough to solve those other areas. And seeing people potentially come around a little bit and say, Well, I'm playing this game actually, and it is great. It is validation of some of the early choices that we made. So a lot of surprises. I'm surprised by the amount of creators that support us and people creating content and the number of box openings, and it's the whole thing. It's delightful. It really is. It's a lot of hard work, but the rewards are certainly there.
Definitely. I think we saw the first beta box now, our local LGS, last week or something, and we just took a little picture and was like, wow, it is coming alive. It's actually here. It's a real thing on the shelves of LGSs. That was absolutely fantastic to see. So speaking of success, the Kickstarter of Sorcery was maybe the most successful of all Kickstarters at all times, and that gave us the Alpha Edition, which I know that everybody that got into the Kickstarter, they just loved it. And now we have the Beta Edition. And we presume that the Beta Edition is bigger than the Alpha Edition. So what is the role of the Beta Edition? We know that the Alpha Edition was to, have this successful Kickstarter, get the company up and running. What is the role of the Beta Edition?
That's a good question. If you look at the Alpha Edition and the deployment model via Kickstarter, typically it's about building brand and raising revenue. Those are the two things that people like to do. I wouldn't say the product's incidental because the product really has to be great as well, but it's an awareness type campaign. And so as a result of that, we work with creators. We kind of try to, really socialize this, but it wasn't whatever we do is never at the expense of just spending money on marketing. It's very easy for people to say, you need to do more marketing. And it's like, how does that have impact? How do we do that in such a way that people feel that it's their game still? I can tell people that the game's great, you'll love it, buy it, but it doesn't, it doesn't change anything. Obviously, sharing information about the game is great too, but to see people really play it and enjoy it, that's really the excitement there. Now, the alpha version itself, when we launched it, we became aware that it would be collectible, because Kickstarters normally are. And I'm on record of, I buy every single game on Kickstarter. I'm really bad. I am. And, I have it still. I have everything. I never sell anything. I just sit on it and enjoy it. And, I open boxes of games that have come and gone already on Kickstarter. But I just like the feeling of it, the mechanism, I like the closed scope of having something in a box that you can enjoy, and there's randomization, and you can look between the cards, and it's just a fun experience. And so Alpha serves the purpose of that initial step. Now, I would say the collectability probably more than we anticipated. I think it's fair to say, seeing potentially how people value that particular product. But it was always the aim that people could play the game. And so this is why we took probably, I think, about 3 or 4 months to sort of invite everyone in to do a lot more playtesting. The game was robust. But prior to that, it absolutely was. It was very functional. I've seen the many hours that our team has spent getting it to the point where we thought it was something that gave a great experience. But playtesting really served as a validation process to ensure that we were doing the right things. And we did make some important changes. It's important to acknowledge the role of our playtesters and just community members when providing feedback. We read everything, we take it all in. So when we moved to beta, things changed quite a lot because, first of all, we didn't have relationships with distribution partners. Every person who goes into a game store wasn't fully aware of Sorcery. And we needed to scale our operations worldwide. Now, Kickstarter, we were lucky to work with a distribution partner who took care of all of the different areas to different levels of success. Obviously, we saw some delays in some territories, and it's inevitable as a small producer that we do struggle sometimes with certainly sort of SLAs, delivery times, things like that, because we don't have control over the logistics partners to a significant level. So when we moved to beta, we first of all had to forge the relationships with different distributors, and we're very lucky with the partners that we have. It's not just a case of we use them to sell product. We work with those folks to understand their customers as well, the stores. We didn't have a direct relationship outside of Innkeepers, so they advised us on that. And so we were fairly, I would say, when we with the beta, one of the outcomes was that we wanted to see it on store shelves for stores that supported the game. Now, that's really challenging because you start printing a product and giving it to somebody else, they get to call the shots a little bit. So what we did is we initiated our Innkeeper program to make sure that our early supporters were able to access product. We anticipated that it would be fairly popular from the amount of demand that we see, the emails of people saying they want it, and what we see happen with alpha on the secondary market as well. Obviously, it was in demand. So by doing that and getting the products into many different places, really what we would want beta to be would be for the people who weren't aware of a Kickstarter, potentially wanted more of the product, but then wanted to pivot into the gameplay aspect of this, to not be afraid to use their cards on the table. I think it's fair to say. But this is a balancing act because it's a trading card game. Trading means potentially there's value associated with that. And so we have to be very measured about how we balance the trading aspect of this as well. It's a case of what as a company, we would love to sell as many boxes as possible because that makes us the most amount of money and we can build our team and reward our staff and it feels great. But that's not the social contract that we have with players, stores. We need to ensure that the product is desirable to some degree. And that comes at the expense sometimes of availability. It's not something we're trying to stymie in terms of how much product is out there. And we were very measured in how much product we produced. But what we've seen now is the adoption of that product. And now the game is becoming more challenging to get. So it's an ongoing issue that we have to look at very carefully. But we think that beta has increased awareness of the brand, has allowed stores to have a relationship with the game, and it serves as a foundation for the future. Also, it is our first retail release, and so we have to be mindful of that. We're not going to get everything right first of all, and it's a learning process as we tune and develop our future products.
Okay, good answer. Good answer. So, I mean, there's no doubt about that there's been some voices saying that the delay was frustrating, and particularly we heard from a lot of local community about the delays because Europe also had some delays with the Kickstarter. Did you find anything that was worth mentioning that you can do? Because, of course, you don't have control of logistic partners. But are there any measures that you're taking forward that you think you might be able to apply to make sure that you are doing everything on your part to not have future delays?
Yes, of course. I'll speak about the delays first of all, because that's a slightly nuanced area. So when we encounter delays, a lot of this is we have a role in it. First of all, it's fair to say. Were some of the delays avoidable? Yes, they absolutely were through better planning. But then we are reliant on 3 or 4 other stakeholders for each store that has a product. There's multiple different organizations involved. When we talk about Europe as an example, what we see in Europe is that the adoption by our distribution partners in the US and North America was very forthcoming. So basically, we want the product. We're very used to doing this type of stuff. We need this many boxes, and these are the stores. This is our program. What we saw in Europe there wasn't that framework in place. We have a number of different distribution partners in Europe, and also Europe's a big place as well. I think that we kind of talk about Europe as this sort of like comparative to the United States. It's not like that at all, because there's regional variations that we saw with Kickstarter product entering different countries and things like that. So distributors help us with this. Now, obviously, it's an English language product. And so when we move to Europe, sometimes there is slight pushback and localization aspects and stuff like that. But typically, what we see is it's a trailing. Europe's normally a trailing indicator of demand. And so when we provide a product to our European partners, we said, you should tell us how much you want. So you go to stores during the pre-order process, and basically you get the product, you come back to us, and we'll fulfill those orders. And what happened is that because it was slower, it was a snapshot in time, about 3 to 4 months prior to release. And what happened? Well, the game got very popular between those 2 dates. And as a result of that, then probably the demand was such that the demand increased, but the snapshot was what happened back there. So that's the type of issues that we see. And maybe it was a learning process for us to understand a little bit more about that. Now, in terms of delays, what happens is when we produce the product in the factory, it then goes to a logistics partner who then send it on. And typically that can happen in 2 ways. It's via a ship or on the plane. Planes are very, very expensive, but we did actually use this for some deliveries to even get close to our delivery dates at a tremendous cost for us. So that's something to bear in mind, that we were very invested in trying to resolve these issues as best possible. With the ships, sometimes there are issues. As an example, we have a shipment booked, and then at the last minute, even when the product is in a container, the shipping company says, we're not going to take that today. And so it has to be unloaded. Yeah. Oh, yes. And it has to be unloaded, has to be stored, and then we have to wait for more availability. And as we ramp into the seasonal rush, a lot of goods leave Asia, increase volume, and so that happens a lot more as well. We work with very capable partners who manage that process for us, but unfortunately, there is sometimes issues are there. And what we saw is the issues are more significant for Europe than they were North America. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we solve this problem? Well, we want to solve it, first of all, because we don't want to have like a just-in-time logistics pipeline where the factory's here, everything has to line up really well. And then if it does, the stores get it on release day, because that's not going to work. And so what we're looking for, first of all, in the US and then in Europe, is to have a local storage. So we can get our product to those regional centers for storage and then for last leg distribution to partners as well. That's an infrastructure lift for us, and we're kind of like moving into that for Arthurian Legends. It's a lot to ask of a small company, but we feel that this is the best way that we can deliver two things. First of all, we can deliver on time and also not deliver early. Because the counterpoint of this is that if we say we have product available in certain areas, inevitably people like to get their hands on it early, and that creates disparity in terms of how product's revealed. So that's the plan anyway. We're going to see what we can do there. We work with some very capable folks who are able to help us with that. So those plans are sort of in negotiation at the moment. So we hope to have that done fairly soon.
Okay, that sounds interesting and also really good. So you mentioned it a bit, and I could pick up on it, and I'm going to ask as tentatively as I can. We know that you presumably are getting some data. You're collecting data about how much beta is going out there. Are all the beta distribution, do they have more boxes and so on? Are you using that in any way to guide your decision about more beta, either more waves or just about at least considering what to do from now on with regard to the demand?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, nothing's off the table. I'm going to say that right now. We'd be silly just to have made our mind up already. Now, what we see is a snapshot of what happens today. And if we look back, just say 6 weeks as an example, I look at your interview with Jürgen from Nerd and Proud of It.
Yeah.
Talking about pre-ordering product and availability and what would happen then, and the fact the product was very freely available. We've seen the adoption and consumption of the product now to a level that it's challenging to get hold of it. So we have to look at that, and data is very important. I come from a data background, so what we do is we look at adoption information from stores, from partners, and also our Curios website as well. Now, first of all, we're not collecting data en masse from anybody, but we're able to see things like dust consumption, the number of decks, the number of visits to our website, the number of new visitors, all of those types of things. And that really helps us inform decisions about what we see and what we should do. There's two camps, first of all. There's obviously the people who it depends on your stake. Like if you've got product, then typically your impression is that you want what you have to have value and you want to feel special. That's good, because that's why you buy a trading card game. It's like, people did it for alpha, they did it for beta. Then there's people who found it challenging to get product. And the issue is that, well, how can I get hold of it? Because my store doesn't have it. It's complicated, and the price is higher than I want to spend. So we have to find a very happy medium between those two. I will say that with the what we've done to date has been the strategy where I think that we've done well in terms of the availability of the product. But there's another issue which people fail to talk about, which is regional availability. It's always seemed to be the number, and it really isn't that as well. It's the number across probably 5 main territories. That's really what we have to look at. And so we are seeing product consumption through the dust codes. We are seeing people talk about it. We're seeing growth in communities. All of those things help us determine. And we haven't made a decision yet. I tend to feel that I would want the product to be collectible. And I don't anticipate us producing product en masse, even though fundamentally everybody asks us for a tremendous amount of product. You have to understand that everyone comes to us and say, you need to give us more. more, please. But the reason that people ask for more is because the game is hard to get hold of. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that if the product wasn't desirable, then probably people wouldn't want it as much. So we have to. There's a signal to noise ratio here. And when we hear community people talk about, what their impression is, I have to look at their role, their stake, how would they benefit from this? How would their community benefit from it as well? One thing which is imperative for us, however, is to see the game played at scale, for new people to be able to play the game. And this is why we have our pre-cons, which basically are sort of a leader for us in terms of value for people to get hold of the product, and to enjoy it that way, and with a growth pattern into the booster boxes as well. But again, we just love the fact that people love what we do and they love the product and they buy it at scale. So we've still got some more thinking to do there, and we've got some plans that we're thinking about. So, but nothing to announce yet.
Okay, cool. And I appreciate your thinking about it from multiple angles, because especially those pre-con decks are so important to get new players in there. They have so much value, so much playability. You get that single booster box pack, so you can just get a feel for it. But also the singles. We are seeing a lot of singles on TCG Player. We hope to see Sorcery on card market at some point as well. But there are a lot of singles out there, so it's not like if you can't get a booster box, it's closed lands. You still have a lot of different ways now to actually obtain those cards, so you can build your deck. So we're happy to hear that you have a really nuanced perspective on it. We tend to be collectors ourselves, but of course we want to see the game grow and people play and have access to the game as well. So,
and players, of course, too. Because
absolutely,
most people in a TCG are both players and collectors. But it's still nice to see that the cards that you spend a lot of money, buying, actually hold value, and can see that, and can also see that some cards are really rare and hard to get. For instance, foil cores. If you go on TCG Player, most of them are out of stock, and that's also great for collectors, because if you hit one of these cards in a box opening, then you have some value in your binder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the foils were an interesting decision that we made. When we look at the legacy of the project initially, I remember speaking to Eric about foil cards, and it was like, not really. Are we not going to do that? And we discussed how they could be. We got some prototypes made, and quite quickly we identified that through the way that we were distributing them, then what happens is it gave something for collectors, but also a different tier for people who wanted to play the games. Well, you have foil cores and things like that, and you have the regular versions available. Even those are things that people love to pull, love to have, because there's kind of like this inherited feeling from the foil cards that you get from having the regular version of it as well. And these are things that we want people to play in the game, so we really do want them available. In terms of Card Market, if people want to speak to Card Market about featuring Sorcery, please do. I've spoken with them, and they had no plans to add additional games, but we feel we're kind of at that level now that they may do well from considering us, and I think that a lot of our community members would love it as well.
And a quick shout out there. They're actually doing a survey right now, and still will be when this is going live. So go take that survey and make sure that we get it on Card Market. Yes.
Wonderful. I'm sure they'll be speaking to me soon. So hi, folks. Please speak to me when you're ready, and we'll get that set up. I will say that the team at TCG Player have been absolutely incredible. They've really helped us. They launched this the way that we were comfortable with it as well. It's very easy just to put a game up and like do it their way, but they were such great stakeholders in the process and very collaborative that we're delighted with that partnership. And it's been very, very successful. First of all, we see they're extremely happy with the way that the game functions, and I think it serves for people to really get the cards that they want. That said, there's always this balance, and I acknowledge this, that players do want cards. I will say though, on the pre-cons, even though they're a great starter experience, there's nothing like getting hold of one of these. And I know it's great, and it's like having kids, where you say, oh, they'll play the kids version of the game. They'll play it to probably make you happy, but really they want to play the grown-up version. And so while it's great you've got the pre-cons, most people really want to get beyond those and push to include more cards. And this is why we made the investment in Curios.io from Ruben. is to be able to socialize and share decks with primers, with all of that information available. It serves as a great resource for people to learn the game as they play, and being able to see the deck in a link, they can go to it first of all, and then they see people playing on videos, and they can learn the nuances of it as well. That's part of the process. So the pre-cons, I feel, are great for exposure, but people very quickly want to get beyond that, and we acknowledge that as well. We're not going to say you're good with starter product. It's never really the case. People always want more because it's a pastime, it's a hobby. They want to devote their time to it, and it needs to feel rewarding.
Yeah, and it's also, just great to open those boxes and go straight into deck building, having fun with all these ideas you have. Then you can also go, check on Curios and see if is that a good idea for a deck, or is there something better out there?
It's great when you can swap 1 or 2 cards out and change your deck. It's great when you can build around ordinary cards to basically get the synergy and predictability within your deck as well. Those things make it a lot of fun. Another sort of aspect of the game is that moving into 2024, sealed and draft are formats that people very much enjoy. I would like to be able to support that better as well. There's an issue with people getting hold of sites, avatars, things like that. And so we're looking quite carefully into that. We really want that to be a fulfilling way of enjoying the game. At Gen Con, we saw it firsthand. We draft as a team, and we see that as well. And we're seeing more and more stores provide those events through our Play Sorcery TCG.com network, that it is becoming more and more popular. So it's for us, that needs product support, and we're actively working on that.
Okay, and what could that look like? Could that look like a sort of a play support bundle with sites and avatars just to support that draft experience?
I think that's reasonable. We haven't made any final determinations as to what that looks like or the mechanism of how people will get hold of it. But I think, that's kind of in line with our thinking. We have to acknowledge the different ways people that play the game, obviously through stores, but people like to play at home as well. So we probably need to develop something that folks can get hold of fairly easily to allow them to enjoy the booster box. The way that I see it is that the booster box is basically like there's 8 players in here, basically, when you do that kind of stuff. So what we need is a product to support that. So maybe a complementary product or something like that. When I say product, it can mean something which is very simple or very ornate. It really depends on our timing and prioritization, really.
Definitely. Great. But yeah, that's also a great idea, about having that, but also having the pre-cons, because you get a lot of the sites you need. You get a variety of avatars to play. So that's also, so even though you buy the pre-cons and later think, I want to upgrade something, then it's really nice to have, because it gets you, a great outset to build decks from.
Yes, and when you have to do the whole spiel to get people into it, it's great to just pull out those pre-cons and let me show you how fun it actually is.
But one thing that I enjoyed with the pre-cons was basically playing with the pre-cons first of all, but then mixing the decks together to make 2-element decks. That's something I think people might have overlooked a little bit. We've seen some creator support for that, but certainly it's a cool way of enjoying the game, especially if 2 people are sharing a pre-con box.
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry, down a little with the weather here. So we just, touched upon collectability. And of course, you have this genius little card called a Curio card within both Alpha Edition and Beta Edition. And so far, we have seen 18 different Curio cards reported in Alpha Edition. We've also seen 18 different Curios reported in the Beta Edition. So is 18 the number, or are there more than 18 Curios out there for each set?
Part of the Curios' popularity, I think, is based on the fact that the community own the information on that. It's a game that we play. It's funny, we do this. Myself and Eric, I will share a little thing. Is when we were designing some of the Curios, some of them made us really laugh. Not just in terms of the art and the card, but the way that the community would enjoy it and experience it. And I will say that the order of the Curios that we created was what we anticipated in terms of exposure. So that has gone well. we're not going to break the mystique. We're not going to, it's silly, really. Well, it's not silly. It's cool. It is cool because people enjoy it, and it's a quaint kind of thing that we do, which is a differentiator. And we want to keep doing it. We may do things differently in future. I don't know. We may change it up and have different plans and go in a different direction, and that's fine. It's we want to make sure that it's healthy. We don't want it to become too predictable. So that's one of the things. In terms of the number, I probably couldn't comment on that without disclosing more information. So, but I must say, I'm delighted with your work as the curator of Curios, Sophie. I know that you spend a lot of time with the community building those lists, and it's something that our team look at as well. So thank you for doing that.
Very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I have to say, I really couldn't do it without the community. I get like, I don't know, 60 tags an hour and constant pings everywhere, but I really do enjoy it. It's been a lot of fun. And really one of those great things for the community to do together. We've been very focused on making sure that the community is as friendly and open and welcoming as possible. And that is actually one of our next questions. It's about the community, because you do have sometimes games get toxic because it's also a game and people want to win. But so far, the sorcery community has been known to be friendly, very welcoming. Is there any way that you as a company feel like you could support the efforts to keep the community a really great space to be in terms of playing, collecting, and everything like that? And is it something that you're looking at? Because it is a softer value, so to speak, but it does mean a lot as a new player coming into a space that feels like you belong and you have a place there.
That's a really tough one.
Yes.
Because first of all, I feel like we set the tone, as do our creators as well. So from our perspective, being somewhat transparent in terms of our decisions, being deliberate in what we do, being reliable, those things are seen to be strengths. Now, we talk about toxic communities and great communities, but what we have to remember is that I'm a member of lots of different communities, and I'm part of communities which aren't great. I'm still a member of them, but I'm an active participant. We have to acknowledge that it's really not about the people. It's about the collection, the collective, the people when they come together and how they feel about it. I anticipate that we're in a very positive cycle at the moment because people are enjoying the game. And I always hear from people saying, I liked this game, but now I like your game instead. And I think to myself, we could be that other game one day. So let's not get too carried away here. I think that as long as we have excellent products and we seem to do the right thing, then people will enjoy what we do. I think situations like this where they get to hear our thoughts are quite useful as well. But in our community, not everyone's happy. We know that. We're fully aware that some people struggle with some of the decisions we've made or product availability and things like that. But I think the minimum level of participation is respect and discourse. If people are willing to represent their feelings and their feedback in a way that we can consume it, it's great. It's hard both on a small company level and individual level to listen to some feedback when it has when it's communicated a certain way. It's like, well, I have to be quite careful. You have to kind of, first of all, park ego is quite important in these types of roles. You have to say, well, okay, that person does have a point. I've seen some very negative content, and I think about it. I think, well, first of all, it comes from a place of passion. Secondly, that person feels that information is factual, so that's maybe a communication issue or something that we need to get right. But thirdly, are we really doing what we're supposed to be doing? Is there anything that we can do better? And the answer is yes. And I feel that if we have that relationship with our community, typically the community building is very strong. We're very lucky to be supported by a whole bunch of creators who are very authentic in what they do. Obviously, you folks, a tremendous number of people worldwide who really love creating content. And I think their enthusiasm it transcends just their enjoyment of the game. Other people pick up on that as well. And then finally, we see people playing the game together, bringing people together, which is a very, very much a community aspect. We see people drafting. The store kits for us were a way of getting started. And I think that those level of rewards helps build community and feeling there. It was rather a blunt instrument in terms of getting those store kits to people because we used a distribution channel based on order size. moving forward, we want to be a little bit more intelligent about how we can place those types of products directly with stores and groups so they can enjoy those. So it's I will say thank you very much, everybody, for being part of our community and making it your game. And it is your game. So people making their own formats and memes and things like that. We love all of that stuff. But at the same time, I feel that the thing that we're very keen to avoid is telling people how to enjoy the game. Telling people, as you notice, when we went to the beta release, I took a bit more of a back seat. It's no longer for me to tell people about the game. It's about for people to learn about the game and tell other people. So, that's really our strategy. Hope it works. But my door's always open if people want to send a message with feedback, and if they want community support, then we're here to help.
Yeah, and I think that has been immensely helpful. I know that people have felt that if they had an issue or something they wanted to talk to you about, you could be actually available on Discord, and people could vent their frustrations. And usually it ends with people feeling like they were heard and actually taken seriously. And that diffuses a lot of frustration, just to know that you've heard the feedback and you're considering how to act on it. And I think that's been very helpful for the community if there has been any issues at all. So that has been great.
I think specifically to give it some context, if we talk about the delays, there's a time where I announced the delays and people gave a bunch of feedback. I think seeing the scale of the level of communication was something that was challenging for me to deal with. It's like, wow, okay, I need to. What I said had a real impact, so I'm very careful about that. In terms of dealing one-on-one with community members, I try my best, but this is a very vast undertaking, and sometimes I just don't have time to get back to folks. And I look at the emails and think, it's been 2 weeks. I'm sorry about that. And I try my best. So just bear with us. We're scaling up as a team, and it needs to be more people devoted to our community outreach as well. So that in 2024, I hope we can make some adjustments there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, that sounds interesting. So if we move a bit into the future.
Mm-hmm.
You say anything about where would Sorcery be as a game in 5 years if all the plans you have right now come to fruition?
Okay.
Just in a brief little one.
5 years is a long time. So 5 years, I feel, will still be around. Just judging by the way that we've structured the business and what we do. So I want to give people some confidence about our longevity, something which is challenging with trading card games. We do the things the way that we want them to happen. We feel the products will be successful, and it's something that we can support as a company. So we'll be around. Secondly, we hope that we are able to, for the sorcery experience to be something that people enjoy, and it feels like their time's well rewarded. That there is a lot of enjoyment from the cards, the gameplay, the community, and the product is more widely available at scale. We want to be able to weather the sort of economic outlook that we see, because there's downturns and upturns in certainly collectible. So we see crypto as kind of the precursor to some movement with trading cards and other things as well. So I really want us to be able to make sure that we have product reliably available in different places. I want to see the evolution of the game. I want the game to continue to feel dynamic, exciting, that there's a reason to keep playing it as well. And I want us to be able to keep to our core vision. And that's very important to us, which is to have the new classic, the game that people look at and they think to themselves, that stands apart. That's the game that's my special game. That's really how we wanted to feel. In terms of us doing big box stores and things like that, I don't know. It's way too early to think like that. We're still a small company. I'd love us to have a team of capable people who love the project, and I'd love to be able to promote our the way that we work with our content creators and supporters to a way that they feel valued as well. So there's many of different things. I as much as people say what's going to happen in 5 years' time, I'm worried about tomorrow, and being pragmatic that as long as we keep having a whole bunch of good tomorrows, then we're going to have a good position in 5 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this is also a bit to just sort of like figure out where are you at as a team? What are you dreaming of? What do you want sorcery to be in the future? And just to hear about what we can expect, but we can also talk some more about some of the future sets that are coming sooner. So should we go into one of those maybe?
Yeah, but that...
Yes. So we do have like a next set confirmed. We have Arthurian Legends, and people are very excited about it, ourselves included.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of fans of
You
like
haven't seen it, so you're not sure how excited you should be, but be very excited because it's great.
We've seen Sophie just, went around sneak peeking everything that Eric showed and found some art in the background, and it looks great. And I'm certain you're going to hit that flavor, absolutely right. And I'm looking really much forward to see the cards.
Yes. So what are you excited about as a team for Arthurian Legends? What has you the most excited? Anything that you can share here?
I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder, first of all. I can talk strategically, but in terms of content, I better leave that to the right people. Otherwise, they'll be angry at me. I think that I really want for people to feel how we can build on our current game in a way that gives an experience which feels fantastic, but also cohesive as well. Moving into a specific theme, obviously there's a danger that the theme kind of takes over. So it needs to be done in a very complementary way, and I think our team have certainly achieved that. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to people experiencing slightly new ways to play the game in terms of some of the ways some of the cards work. I'm looking forward to some of the issues that people see with the game kind of being evolved due to introduction of new cards, which I think is exciting. I'm excited about the product itself and what that can have, and the collectability aspect and the presentation of that. That's going to be fantastic. But what I will say is that moving into, I think it was post-beta, we had different paths available to us as to potentially which way we would go with the product. And after speaking with Eric, we figured that we want to commit to Arthurian Legends as the next product very strongly. We gave the directions to the team, and they've absolutely delivered on that. So much so that we've in terms of scheduling, we think we're doing fairly well. We haven't entered production with it yet, but things are lined up now, so we can be fairly deliberate with how we get that product out there. So I think Arthurian Legends will be the next sorcery experience, because quite frankly, that's really what most people want. They want to have more sorcery, more cards to play with. So everything else that we do, I think, potentially comes after that. We have plans for, let me get this right, probably 4 or 5 sets after Arthurian Legends at different levels of maturity, is fair to say. But we do reserve the right to change our minds completely if we want to. We might look at Arthurian Legends and then the next set and the set after that and think, maybe we're going a different direction. Maybe we want to do some cool things. So, there is that as well. But as we build out our production pipeline, not just with our artists, but internally about how we create cards and text, and how we work on things like templating and rules. And we invested so much time on our infrastructure that this becomes slightly easier for us. We've been quite vocal about having 1 set a year. And right now, that's still going to be our cadence. But the demand is such that people keep saying, we need a little bit more than that. It's like, I think a lot of people want like 1+ sets a year, like not like 2, maybe not 1, maybe not 3, but they kind of want a little more. And so this is why we're looking at some of our sort of companion sets. These are very small pools of cards that we will probably I think the first few we'll experiment with a little bit, see how people adopt them, different ways of getting hold of them maybe. But I think Ed Beard's dragons have been socialized, and people love that as well. And we've got some other things up our sleeves. So hopefully, following Arthurian Legends, we can push one of those products out and just measure what happens once that's been adopted and people enjoy it. Then we can iterate on that and improve. But I think it's certainly the art and the flavor is top tier from what I've seen so far. So I really want people to enjoy those products as well.
That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And also that was one of the questions on the list, so I'm just gonna scratch that. But
Okay.
Speaking of cards and Arthurian Legends, we know that you had an interview with Team Covenant where you talked a little about having maybe multi-element cards and also maybe some new mechanics. Is that something you can shed a little light on?
Again, it may be premature for me to speak on this because I'll leave it to the experts because I don't want to butcher it too much. Yeah, it's an area that we're looking to potentially do some cool things as well. It's a case of whenever you do this type of work, you don't go all in on anything. You kind of like, okay, let's test the water with it, and also. Some of the ideas were things that potentially we had previously, which we potentially parked for a little while as well. We had, as one example, the counterspell mechanic, a very deliberate mechanic that changes the whole impact of the game. That's something we've pulled out of the game, and at some point in the future we'll consider that. But that's not going to be part of Arthurian Legends. We don't want to change the core mechanics of the game. We had cards like the Tower of Babel, which was actually 2 cards. Which allow people to align them, and I think they're available in our sample packs, but very early edition. But when we do things with those types of cards, that takes a little bit more because we found that the chances of actually pulling that off were so sort of like minute that it'll be great if you manage to pull it off. But also, what does it mean for the game? What does it actually change in the game? So there's other areas that we have like Death's Door, which is exciting. A whole bunch of ways that we can do this, and I have to be careful not to say too much because I was just a bit carried away there. So good question. But I'm sure moving into next year we will be sharing more on Arthurian Legends, get a little bit more feel for the art production aspect of it, the gameplay aspect, obviously leading into the pre-order and release cycle.
Oh, that sounds great.
So
also
go ahead.
Sorry, I think you're absolutely right that we have heard a lot of people playing that says that it's really nice with sorcery that you have the strategic elements with the grid, but you don't have to worry about interaction on your turn all the time like you do in Magic, and that's a thing that a lot of players value very highly. So I think you have the the right finger on the pulse right there.
Yeah,
I think it's like when you're juggling. Most people can. Well, I say most people. A few people can juggle 3 balls, and that's fine. You get used to it, and then they introduce the 4th, and they can learn that as well. Maybe in time, that's an aspect of the game we could do, but we can do other things as well. I feel that like the counterplay type of mechanic changes the social contract with the game and the opponent as well. When I see people playing sorcery, it's people collaborate when they play sorcery. They're telling a story together, and they talk and they share things and they react. It's and it's cool because it kind of brings people together. I always see the playmat as the third player. And I've got a playmat I can show you. So this is one of the. Let's have a look here. One of the dust rewards that we have. This is the single player Mirror Realm. This was so popular that I'm inundated with people trying to get the Mirror Realm playmat, and we want to do something which was still the art, but it kept things special for people who participated in the Kickstarter, like we said. So we put together a single player version there. But the playmat is the third player. It's the game status, things which is represented, and it's both players interact with it. There's a notion of how can I put this? Surprise within the realm itself. The cards suddenly change the game state, and it's represented there. So it's a very cool mechanic, and because we have this spatial aspect, which is very complex in terms of the core game mechanics, some of the cards which feature specifically on it. We have that layered into our game compared to other games, and so when we look at things like Counterplay, that's another layer. We start getting towards the point where are people waiting to play the game, or are they just enjoying it on their turn? And what we have right now has been validated, we feel, from the enjoyment people get. And so we'll continue to see potentially how we can introduce new mechanics as we get a little bit more mature.
Absolutely. And I think it's a wonderful element, sort of telling the story, building up that universe together, composing of each deck on each side, and really sort of like strategizing and sort of, just narrating the game as you go along. That's been a really cool experience as well. So
that storytelling aspect is very important to our team. It's something that we've devoted a lot of time to. Making sure is inherent within certainly the alpha and beta set, but also Arthurian Legends as well. Now the stories might be absolutely fantastical, ridiculous, kind of like frogs swallowing camels and things blowing up and stuff like that, but it is memorable, and ultimately it needs to be that. So the aspect of story, we want every game to feel like there was like I wouldn't say like Dungeons and Dragons, maybe, but that kind of thing where people, they don't describe the mechanics, they describe the outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have absolutely succeeded. Having, and also, having, not having all these counter spells and stuff also makes the game much more fun, because you get to, on your turn, plan ahead and be like, now I'm doing this, I'm doing this massive giant, now what you're gonna do, and then the other player's like, haha, interesting, because I'm gonna do this. And
Yeah.
then you have this little narrative going on, and also having the death's door, it also like having a mini game in the game, because when you get to that point in the game, it just changes so much.
Yeah, it's definitely
It
sort of
is.
like a cat and mouse thing, like going around chasing each other across the realm just to get in that final blow.
Yeah.
But it really is great, and I do think it adds a level of being present. You're present together in the storytelling, because you're not thinking about what do I need to do on your turn. I just need to keep it to my turn. So I think it's nice to hear that you're thinking about the interactions and mechanics and how that will affect the game and the storytelling.
If you look at other games, there's a notion of acceleration with sorcery that you're right, this is Breakpoint, where you basically have the ability to strategically increase your dominance of the realm, first of all, to set yourself up for the end game. And so what happens as you have more and more resources, you can play cards which are more and more impactful. So you kind of ramp into the ending as well, which narratively works with things like movies, as an example. If you look at Star Wars, that's kind of how it is. It kind of starts here and then goes to there. But then other games, for instance, there's sometimes an inevitability about it as well. I'm not going to mention any game specifically, but if as you play, you get to the mid game, and then suddenly you're playing out the game towards the end, which can happen in sorcery to some degree. But I feel that because we have powerful, unique cards which can be pulled into the game as well, at least that resolution is such that there's always some very cool surprises and things like that. And then we look at other games where the resources are that you have the resources at the start and you expend them as the game goes on. And so typically what happens is that you start off very, very powerful, and then it becomes a fight to the death, and these things become more challenging, and you become more dependent on card draw, the deck, and things like that. So all of those experiences exist, and I think they're all fantastic. But we know which lane we're in. We want the game to feel like, let me try and assert dominance early on, but also position myself what might happen at the end. And I think a lot of sorcery players kind of see that as one whole activity, that I just need to get to that point where I kill the avatar. But actually expanding your realm and the strategic placement of resources as well. It's both an asset and a liability to have a site which is undefended.
Oh yeah.
So that comes into it as well. But there's a lot more intelligent people who have thoughts on this, and both internally and externally. And so I really enjoy listening and learning more about that.
Yes, and it's an amazing part of the gameplay. So we're talking a bit about Arthurian Legends and Ed Beard Jr.'s Draken mini set he has shown some amazing paintings for it, and it looks very cool. Can you say or clarify anything about that order? Will it be Ed Beard Jr.'s mini set first or after Arthurian Legends? Do you have the possibility to share that?
So when we work with our artist talent, one thing we have to give them the luxury of is to do the things the way that they want to do things. And as people have seen, Ed is still developing some of the work at the moment. If we were to productize that, it takes us a certain amount of time to be able to do so. So we're very reliant on the fact that we need to give him the time to develop the rest of the material before we get it as well. So with that in mind, potentially it may not be the first one we go with, but again, we don't know, because we have reliance on other artists as well to do things. So it kind of really depends on how they can fulfill that and when we get it. And it's this kind of casual way we have of making sure that each card, each set can be as good as it possibly can be. But it does have impact on us as a business, in terms of reliability and release schedule. But it's how we want to do things. So we're willing to take that on.
Yes.
I think that's a good trade.
Yes, I
Good
think
trade-off.
so too.
Yeah.
Are we talking for sure 2024 in terms of Arthurian Legends? Is that something you can commit to? Or
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. Yes.
Very
That
exciting.
sounds great.
Yeah.
And it is something we want to prioritize as well. It's very tough for us because, I in the past we've had to make decisions about release dates and things like that, and ultimately it's been very challenging for us. And expectation management is a big part of this job.
Oh, yeah.
I think as long as people see that we are being deliberate in what we're doing, then I think that's a good thing. But we're growing, and so we have more resources now to do the things that normal companies have. We can't be this sort of like indie startup company who get to make all the excuses because we're new, but we've got an awesome game. We need to do things properly as well. So it's certainly, I put it this way. Arthurian Legends is foundational for our 2024 support. So, we're going to do everything we can to get that out as soon as possible. But we haven't announced a release date yet because there are some factors we need to iron out before we can commit to that.
Yes,
Yeah,
but we are
definitely.
very happy just to hear 2024. That is amazing and very exciting.
If we look at the maturity of the game design and development alone, we're at a position now where we feel very confident that we've kind of reached the end game in terms of the production side of it. Now it then features the preparation side of it. When it moves into production, that's the second element. So that's where we start getting time estimates and things like that. But with local distribution and sort of local storage, so we can distribute the product ourselves, we can actually start that process a lot sooner, anticipate demand, all of those types of things as well to be more predictable.
Epic. Sounds
That
awesome.
sounds great.
I just have to scooch in one
Okay, you
final,
scooch in. Yeah.
Arthurian Legends question. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Curios, yes or no for Arthurian Legends?
I'm not going to say.
Okay. But I have to ask. But
Yeah.
I respect.
Yeah, I understand. People enjoy them. We're aware of that. But like I said, please don't expect that we're going to be predictable with this type of stuff. It's part of the fun. Bit of a cat and mouse game sometimes.
The only thing we are expecting is that you will be unpredictable.
Don't predict anything except for our unpredictability, and that's not a cop-out. It's part of the mystery, the mystique. If we look to see how people traditionally have enjoyed these types of games before the internet, self-discovery was extremely important, and we want to bring that aspect of it back as well. And I'm sure other games do it, and it's fun, but people enjoy it when it's sorcery, so we're going to do that for a little while longer.
So I interpret that as a yes. But yeah,
I think leaving Curios up to community interpretation is really what it's all about. So
that sounds great. So Simon, to conclude the interview, is there anything exciting going on within the firm or company of Sorcery that you would like to share with the viewers and listeners right now? A little nugget of gold you have not told anything about as of yet.
There's a few things. So I've got so I have these playmats, but so the dust store aspect of it. We're currently fulfilling, basically getting the items. This is going to be really popular. The Roots of Yggdrasil. It's a really cool mat. It's lovely colors. It's going to be very good. I think this is one that you actually like, Sophie. This one here.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Colors are stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really happy with these mats. We've got a fantastic I think they're great. And then finally we have the Watchtower. So these are the 4 mats initially available within the Dust Store as well. So we have the prototypes. We've sent some feedback. They're currently in production. So those will be in the Dust Store. The T-shirts are in production. The hoodies, we're kind of looking at samples right now to get those done. People have seen some of the cards appearing in the Dust Store, but we've got a few more that we haven't announced so far. We're currently working on tuning the Dust acquisition aspect of it, because fundamentally, it's being very transparent. It's a cost center for us to produce these high quality rewards. And we have to be a bit careful as a small company about how we do that. So we're just tuning that. We want it to feel that we don't want it to feel that when people acquire them, then there's a path to being able to acquire stuff. And it's not buying product at incredible scale just to get one card. That's not really what this is about. We're going to be as fair as we can be based on what our expectations are for this type of rewards, basically. So the Dust acquisition happens through product registration through the Dust codes. Bottom of your booster box, I'll show people now before they forget. There we go. There is a very small code here. That's not scratched off, unfortunately, so people can't claim that one. That does happen in live stream. You'd be surprised. So register your boxes. You start accumulating dust. When we move into 2024, as we launch our store play initiative with all of the rewards as well, then people will start accumulating dust based on both participation and achievement within that. And we're looking at those values, potentially having different values for different types of events. We're looking to see how we can scale that also to support some partners who do larger scale events to a degree. But it's we want the dust system to be cool. We want people to think to themselves, when I buy my booster box, actually using the cards has value. And it's good, but it's a risk for us because it's a cost center. Another thing we're asked about are binders a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I think what we're going to elect to do is that binders, we were probably going to sell those direct from our website. We don't want those to be something that people have to. We don't want to prevent the accessibility of the binders. So we've currently got a couple of samples that we're looking at, and then hopefully early next year. Well, I say early, it depends. We have to get them produced and stuff like that. So at some point within a Q1 next year, we have to have those available for direct purchase. Those types of products typically are supported as well by game stores, and accessories aren't normally what stores want. So we're going to try that direct. Also, by doing so and selling binders, it helps us to fund the dust activity as well. So there's an aspect of it that, being intelligent about how we push products out there allows us to then support this initiative very robustly with the dust store. With dust as well, I'm kind of toying with the fact that we may have some limited items on there at times, maybe some items that people want that we maybe have left over that we can put up there now and again that people can, participate in that. But want it to be fun, and also we'd love feedback. So anybody who has any ideas about what we should have in the dust store, let us know. We're all ears. We've got another couple of products we're currently under consideration. May or may not do those through dust or not, but there'll certainly be enough dust rewards for people to continue to participate and to use their currency.
Oh, that sounds so great.
Sounds
That's
really
really
good.
exciting news.
Yeah.
So the binders, will they be designated for each set so that there's one for beta and one for Arthurian Legends, or?
Well, I've told you now. I might as well let you know what we're going to do. So first of all, people love the alpha binder, so we want something similar for beta. So I think there's going to be like a small change to have the spine with the beta symbol. So basically, if you've got your alpha cards, the beta, you got some consistency there. One thing we didn't do was something specific for the sites or for the atlas, and so we're looking at creating a binder kind of specifically for those cards as well. One of the issues with sorcery is that you look at cards and turn your head because some of them are like landscapes, some of them are portraits. So we're going to do something to probably have a binder specifically for sites, so people can keep those separate and have a good experience. Probably it's going to be the same form factor, but just maybe slightly different cover that people can use that just for their sites.
Oh, that is epic. I can hear that we are going to rearrange our beta set into an original binder next year sometime. That sounds amazing.
Fantastic. I'm glad people love that product. We spent quite a long time. I've got like a pile of the products that didn't make the cut. For instance, like feeling the outside and just slicing it and looking at the foam and go, it's not thick enough. Let's make it nicer. The inside, it's not quite right. We had one which was like fabric inside, and there was some slight marks when you closed it, and I didn't like that. So we basically pivoted on there as well. But again, we're supported by some very capable experts in the field who do great work for us. So we're happy with the quality that we've been able to put out there to date.
Absolutely, and so are we. And I think that is precisely why people are so excited about the idea of a beta binder, because the alpha one is just like superior, and it's amazing, and it's absolutely beautiful as well. So it's a very nice product to have that beautiful alpha set in. So a final question. Do you think there is something that you could speak to on, content creators? We're creating content for Sorcery because we really enjoy the game. We really love the game. And I just want to take the opportunity to say that we are not hired by the company. I hope you will say as much.
You are. Yeah, I've got to pay you, haven't I? So no. All jokes aside, we've got some fantastic creators who support us and are big fans, obviously. So
Yeah. We have.
That was an intern joke.
Yeah.
We had a very good box opening, and a nice person said that, I think they have been hired by the company because this box is too good. And we're like, no, no.
So I'll speak on that actually, because this is a question that I've seen come up before about the beta experience. Whenever we create a product in terms of randomization, there's this like range between consistency and chaos in terms of what happens. And we put the processes in place and we kind of anticipate what will happen. With the beta, I think it's slightly different from alpha. It feels a bit different, and it's something that we've noticed. It's something that we're looking at and thinking, okay, well, we turn the dial maybe. So I want people to know that we do take that feedback as well. We understand how it feels, although I will say that a lot of people are very excited about that as well. I wish we had the ability to get great boxes to people. As people know, we can barely get product to where it needs to be on time anyway. So for us to have that, the ability to actually pick out these boxes is way beyond our capability. But we're delighted that we see a variation. And also that when people open the boxes, we hope they do so with the expectation that they can enjoy the game as well. I think that's foundational. Even though there's some exciting big hits, whichever game you play, inevitably some of the cards are harder to collect, which makes them desirable as well. So our aim is to continue to push the game in such a way, promote the game in such a way that people can have great experiences, potentially without these top tier cards. In fact, we've seen a lot of decks where consistency is built in with a lot of ordinary and exceptional cards, and those decks actually perform very, very well.
Yes. So I was just going to say, just before denying any affiliation or being hired by is there some way that you think that we can, help support the game? Is there something you would like to do with content creators? You were talking a bit about maybe what to do in the future. Is there something that you think that you can speak on, the relationship between how we support the community and how community can be supported by you?
Yeah, also because, this interview is, of course, viewed by a lot of people and also viewed by at least some content creators, and also that some we know. So if they are out there thinking, how can we, work with Sorcery to do something great for the community?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, we don't have all of the answers. It's a collaboration. So we want to hear from creators and fans and players and stores. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you enjoy. That's all part of it. We got to the stage with the initial release of beta that we have a little bit more time now to be a bit more deliberate in how we do that. In terms of how we support advice, first of all, advice to creators. We are one set a year, and we want that to be very loudly understood that, yes, we're going to be around for a while. So pace yourselves a little bit, what we really want is for people to have longevity with their collectability, things that they continue to enjoy and play. We have a set of 400 cards, which is, I think, almost unparalleled for a first set. A lot of play built in there, and we want people to enjoy the Apprentice Wizard and for it to become familiar. We want people to really like Flaming Sword and Battle Mage and all these other aspects of it. We want them to be things that people kind of build in. If you look at, for instance, like board games, people play board games a lot, and they continue to enjoy the board game because of the variety it offers, but also the consistency, and that's important to what we do as well. In terms of how creators support their communities, it's hard. And typically, once you move out of the sort of reveal aspect of it and the collectability, naturally it focuses on gameplay. And so that's where the dust door comes in, the promotion of the play experience is on us, but we feel that we could be supported by creators there. And then potentially maybe we would like to put something in place where we actually reward creators directly. And we have to be a bit careful there. Because we don't want to do anything which is seen to be highly exclusive or challenging to get hold of, but at the same time, we want our content creators to be stakeholders in what we do. So we're thinking about that. And if anybody has any ideas, you can always email us at community@sorcerytcg.com. We'll happily socialize those with the teams, and we'll figure out what we can do probably in 2024. The final thing is, and I don't want to keep harping on about this, but we are a small company. We wear a lot of hats. We have to do a lot of work. And I think that if people can understand as we're growing, we would love to do more, but we are somewhat constrained by our processes right now. And so hopefully we'd like to hire additional folks in next year to allow us to scale. That process is challenging though. When you add people to a team, it's a case of not just bodies. It's a case of you're part of the team. You take on a role. You interact with the other people there, and we have the consistency aspect as well. So yeah, all those things. But fundamentally, I'm not. While we've got to this stage, we wouldn't have be able to do it without feedback from people, community fans, and keep it going. Let us know. Join our Discord. Go to our Facebook group. Comment on this video or other communities, and just do what you can to share your thoughts, because that's how we're successful together.
Awesome. I think that is a beautiful place to end, being successful together. That's a very nice word to end on. We really want to thank you for coming on. It has been absolutely pleasure. And we really want to thank all of you viewers as well. Please do like the video. It matters greatly to the success of the channel, and also to get this interview out and hear some more from the Sorcery team themselves. So any final words from you, Simon?
Just a huge thank you to yourself and Jens for your continued support, your content. I know a lot of people enjoy it, and yes, it's a lot to juggle your own responsibilities and to do YouTube as well. But people love your content, high quality, and the way that you're very inclusive, and you work with other creators as well. So again, thank you sincerely for that, and thank you to your viewers for enjoying the game and continuing to be fans of Sorcery. If there are any other additional questions, people can put them in the comments below, and I'll do what I can to provide you with some follow-up answers as well.
That would be very nice.
Excellent.
So thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.